Here we go. Welcome, everybody, to our City Council Budget Workshop. Today is Wednesday, May 7th. It is 5:18 p.m. Around the table, we have the entire council, and we are joined by Finance Director Dave Little. Tonight, we are starting with item 1, which is a good place to start, the assessing update.
Yeah, so I'm going to call up our assessor, Phil Drew, to provide an update on some valuation changes and modifications that he's gone through. Turn over to Phil.
Great, thank you.
Yes, thank you for being here. And really this is an update from my January memo that I had previously provided you folks. The real takeaway is the market-based adjustments that we made on the residential and small multifamily properties can be down adjusted. And some of the statistics I gave you are from the main multiple listing service. They will produce statistics by month. And it was interesting to see from July of 2024 to December of 2024, the median sale price within those months had risen significantly. So when I gave that update in January, I could see those kind of price increases. And the question was, if they were going to stay near 300,000 above, then my previous adjustments would really be necessary to try to reduce the deficit that we had. But thankfully, by March, very quickly, they had really dropped back to the July 2024 level on the median sale price. So things look actually rather stable, other than really 1 month of sales in the month of December. And we're starting to see days on market increase. It was at a very low number of 5 days. It's up to 44. I think in years past, a property, 1 to 3 months, would be the marketing period. So 44 days is still rather low, looking at it historically. The one thing I do look at it occasionally is Zillow. So they actually provide a 1-year forward forecast. So many parts of the country, they're forecasting a drop over the next year. But for most communities, Portland, Augusta, Auburn, Bangor, it's pretty much flat, 0 to maybe 1.5% increase. So that's pretty much flat in my books. So we're in the process of the 2026 revaluation. And when that work is done next year, value should be about 100% of market value. And since we were starting with the residential properties at about 83%, the modified adjustments will get us, make up about half of that difference. And then, which is a little more reasonable. By neighborhood, I think the example here is that there were 21 neighborhoods with about 3,700 properties within those neighborhoods, and they were going to see a neighborhood adjustment of plus 12 to plus 14%. And now that's down to 6 to 7%. So although they're reduced, they're really still necessary to try to have more equitable values within certain neighborhoods. So I think it's still necessary, but I think reducing them in light of no rapid appreciation over the last 9 months is pretty reasonable. And then when we look at just the single family properties and condo units in Bangor, we have about 6,827. And the overall average adjustment is about 8.1% for small residential properties. And that would have the average assessed value about $265,000. um, in the city. Now, when I look at Zillow, for March of 2025, they looked at Bangor, said the average sale price is about 274,000. So we expect to be a little bit lower, right? If we're, assessing about 90 some percent, then we expect to be a little bit lower. And then Realtor.com reported that the median sale price was about 283,000. So 270, 283 is probably pretty reasonable, but we'd be at about 264 on the assessed value. And then even by down adjusting the neighborhood increases, so we're still able to achieve the state's mid-quartile mean statistic of overall 91%. So that means that we can claim 100% certified ratio. And if we had to be lower than 100%, then we'd have to down value parcel property to be equal with residential property. So we don't have to make those types of adjustments. So it's we're hitting a lower percentage at 91% than in past years, but we know that the revaluation is coming and should be picking up any difference if the values stay at the current level. So that seems like a reasonable way to go. Yeah. And then from my January memo, the overall value of the city with these adjustments drops about $40 million. But when we look at the new growth from the 2024 numbers, we're almost up 1 percentage point for new growth and about 5 percentage point for the market adjustment. So overall, the city's just close to 6% higher in value than the previous year. At this time, I cannot give good figures on the personal property still because we're still processing all of the returns. And I will provide the update in the month of May, which is prior to June. Usually it's in the first week of June. So hopefully the update will be provided as of the end of next week. And I'll give you the figures that I have and give you any impression of what hasn't been processed and what I think about the direction of those values at that time. So that would be the best information that I would have available at the end of next week on the personal property side. Real estate's pretty much solid.
Questions? Mr. Leonard?
So being on the lower end of 91%, and I don't want to put any words in your mouth, but are there any variables in the foreseeable future that you might be able to forecast that might change that figure overall? Like, is there anything that could possibly adjust the values of these properties? Realistically.
Yeah. The one thing assessors try not to do is forecast.
Right, I get that.
So we'll read someone else's forecast. But really we try not to forecast. I don't think so. Not off the top of my head. I could probably think about it and get back to you, but I wouldn't foresee any.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Mallard?
This probably has nothing to do with assessing, but I'm just curious. Have we had any new pickups for valuation on existing properties with the revaluation you're doing? And if you picked up new value, are you using it for the current year? Or are we waiting until the revaluation is done completely?
No, so on page 3, so the new value this year from new construction is about $28 million.
No, I'm not talking about new construction. I'm talking about existing buildings. Like you're doing a reval and you come to my house and say, oh, he's built a 2-car garage and he didn't get a permit. So you didn't have it on valuation before. Are we picking much up of that type of valuation?
I'm not aware of any permits that we haven't acted on where
No,
there's
and
new
that's not the
construction.
question either. Is the property out there that didn't get a permit that you're picking up?
Don't have a report from the revaluation company. On what they picked up or what they haven't picked up, but we'll get that in 2026. But I don't,
I didn't know if you were getting it as they picked it up.
no, because we're gonna do our own independent work leading up to the April 1st, 2025 assessment, and we're not relying upon their.
Well, it would
There
just
were.
be an assistance from them if they had the information. I would think a way to pick up extra value, but that's fine. That's all I am.
Yeah, I don't think there are
Counselor-
very many.
Sorry, go ahead.
If the real estate market continues to slightly for the next 24 months, continues to slightly go down in that 4 to 6% range, how do you see that impacting? It's impacted us 40 million this year. How do you see the impact moving forward in a year or two with our assessment in relation to the 91% and
So 4 to 6% reduction. So what would be
Is the
reducing?
same, is the same effect that happened this year? If it happens to continue for the next 2 years. It affected our budget, our
Yeah.
estimate 40 million. So
Yeah.
how do you see that potentially?
So the principal year of sales that the reval company will use, April 1st, 2026 to April 2nd, 2025. So that's the 1 year of sales that they will principally use to determine the values on April 1st, 2026. They won't go ahead and look at estimate or forecast sales after that.
I understand. I just see the 40 million effect now, and I'm just thinking from, our statistics and reports, it's quite likely we're going to see this for the next year or two. And I just didn't know what your thoughts were about it potentially affecting the future.
So I think we want to keep it to this year's budget if we can, because we have a lot to get through. But understand that it's a little complicated because we are doing that citywide revale. Any other questions on what's been presented here? I think you're off the hook. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we move on,
Mhm.
Sam, I'm just gonna join us, and you're gonna have a little.
A mini update,
mini
Excellent.
updates.
a mini update.
Okay,
So Monday night, Finance Committee, the Finance Committee made a recommendation for the council to consider going to a commercial plan for paid family medical leave. And one of the pieces of information we put in there is over the period of time, we expect to save about $850,000. So, as is pretty typical for the budget process, we start in January and the first thing we start with is personnel. So, and then we do all of the line items. So we are constantly revisiting the assumptions that we use throughout the budget process. So we're in the midst of reevaluating, especially our personnel right now.
Yep.
It's not uncommon for us to hire people from the time we do budgets and then we true everything up. So we're working through that, but with the savings that we anticipate through converting to a commercial, paid family medical leave, with the changes, that Phil is proposing in the valuation and the market adjustments. If you may recall, when we started the proposed budget process, we were looking at about a 7.8% average increase to the average residential homeowner. The change in the values assumptions that Phil shared with us, the change in the estimated costs related to paid family medical leave has actually allowed that number to come down. It is now sitting at about 4.9%. So that market value change was a big shift for us. Because what it did is it did not result in as much of a shift from the commercial property tax base to the residential homeowners base. So we're not done by any means, but I did want to provide an update so that you understood kind of where we are today. We are, as I said, continuing to evaluate our personnel and some of our other budget assumptions. As you can imagine, the vast majority of our budget is tied to personnel costs. And turnover and hirings, that it can be a pretty big swing. So we will continue to evaluate that, but I did want to give you an update as to where we were now. Just as you think, as we go through this, I think it's going to be really helpful. We're going to go through every department because everybody deserves to be heard, seen, and have a conversation about. I know the council was uncomfortable with where we were. But I also wanted you to have that new number so that if you're thinking about what you might like to see for a reduction plan, as far as a, pick a number. Is it a percentage? Is it something? Because it will be really helpful for us to refine what we bring back as far as any potential reduction plan for you all to consider. So I just wanted to kind of, I think that was all of it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's what we talked about, yes.
Okay. Don't see the downtown partnership here.
On the way, it'll be here in 5 minutes.
Okay, do you want to go on to the downtown tip? Proposed budgets?
Yes, Council Bernier.
So. Couple things as we do this budget.
Yeah.
Historically, we've had year-over-year full-time equivalents on the bottom of each
Yep,
department. I didn't see that.
well, because it had started initially. We can go back and do it in total. The problem is the way we're formatting it, so we're happy to go back and do that.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah, I just found that as a good guide.
Yeah.
And the other, and I've mentioned it to you, just getting the debt service
Yes, maturity
breakdown.
schedule.
That'd be great.
That's another important point to point out, especially as we have newer counselors. So as we go through the budget process, what we're trying to present to you here tonight is sort of, these are what we're looking at for the coming year. This is an overview of the cost drivers of each operation. These are the capital items that we've, proposed to be funded. These are the items that are not. A review of any new program requests. Obviously, the proposed budget always starts with no new programs. And it's likely there are going to be questions, more in-depth questions. As we go through this, we'll make note of all of those questions. It's difficult for us to come here and be fully prepared to talk about everything. And we could get, to Council Chair Pelletier's point, really hung up about talking about one item that prevents us from getting through items. So we will accumulate all of those questions and we'll start bringing them back to you on a routine basis as part of our weekly budgets meetings. So, and that seems to have worked well in the past.
Sounds
So now
good.
you have Councilor Fournier's questions.
Yep, I have.
Okay.
We're gonna move ahead to the downtown TIF. Expenses, in your packet, that's just past the downtown, Bangor Partnerships presentation. The downtown TIF is, for those councilors that may not be aware, we have designated a specific area in the downtown, and the properties within that, area. Any additional value, the values were locked in. So any investments that were put into those properties that increase the property values, the taxes that are collected on those values are then reinvested back into that downtown area for improvements and other factors. And that's what this list is, the planned expenses and the planned projects, or putting away money for future things that are multi-year projects. So we're looking at, from the downtown TIF, about $4.3 million to be expended. Again, this is through the TIF, so it's not impacting the mill rate for any cuts that you may want to do through here. It's not going to impact the potential impact to the individual taxpayer. The downtown TIF has always been planned to utilize for some debt service. That's the Columbia Street parking deck, as well as the arena. It uses as a buffer to make up any difference in the arena debt service. That's going to be the 1.4 million. The downtown TIF development agreements, those are agreements that we have with some of those businesses where it has been determined that we would refund some of the tax money back to them for their development if they brought into the property. Those are usually standard for a next number of years, 10 to 15, where the incremental values are captured and we refund them back a portion of their tax money. The Court Street demolition, that's also the debt service. That was the demolition of the old police building on Court Street. The Village Partnership, which has been talked about for a while, this is putting away that money. We know that's gonna be a significant project. And so this is the anticipated costs, over the 5-year plan. It's looking to put about $2 million away, for that project. So there's some local money available when that project kicks in. Every year we put money aside for downtown sidewalks, for both repairs and replacements, pedestrian improvements, crosswalks, signal improvements, downtown amenities, marketing of the downtown. There's the money in there to redevelop the bulkhead down on the waterfront, retaining walls along the Kenduskeag Stream. Again, those are multi-year projects. The Kenduskeag retaining walls, we're not really sure what that's gonna cost us until we start digging into it, but we're thinking it's gonna be a big number. There's some money in there for economic development support, lighting upgrades to try to get more energy efficient streetlights, generator for the Pickering Square and the Transit Center, the Penobscot River remediation, that's a yearly thing as well. Some funding of the Cross Insurance Center Reserve that goes into the reserve, which they then in turn use for capital items at the Cross Center. Some monument restoration, some fence repair along the Kenduskeag Stream, downtown Bangor Partnership position, the downtown visitor safety service, that is the Street Plus service, which will be talked about during the downtown Bangor Partnership budget request. The Cross Center retaining wall, as well as new cameras down on the waterfront, which would make up that 4.3 million. All of that is being proposed to be budgeted. Most of it is being funded through the downtown TIF, except for some of the downtown sidewalks, replacement and repairs, as well as the traffic signals. There is leftover money from previous years that we're going to use that money up and not continue to add into the fund until we use up some of the money that we haven't spent in prior years.
Thank you. Questions? Counselor Beck?
Yeah, can you give me some examples of, I guess, downtown amenities and then the economic development support? I'm just trying to get an idea of like what kind of goes into those things.
So downtown amenities could be benches, they could be the big belly trash cans. They could be waste disposal, the oh yes, Jefferson and the landscape architect, always looking for landscaping opportunities. So anything we may see that may liven up or be needed within the downtown.
Gotcha.
It gives us some flexibility for when the thing pops up, we have some opportunity. Economic development support, so some portion, $15,000 a year has historically gone to support our economic development department because, for example, Ann spends a considerable amount of time working with the downtown Bangor Partnership, meeting with downtown businesses. So it's sort of a token recognition that there's some administrative costs borne by the city.
Thank you. Other questions? Okay, seeing none.
Thank you. We will move on to public services.
All right.
So public services, what's in your packet? We started these last year or the year before. We sort of compiled what was in your budget book into a one-page summary for us to go through, and then we may need to skip back and forth through the book depending on any questions that the council may have. So public services, this incorporates the Public Works Department, fleet maintenance, engineering, as well as infrastructure. Those are combined. In total, the revenues are budgeted for 1.9 million, which is a slight increase over the prior year adopted budget, and that's related to our solid waste disposal fees. On the expenditure side, the budgeted expenses are 13,291,000, which is up from the 12.7 from last year. Those changes are related to payroll changes, curbside removal, utilities, parts, and insurance. They do have a new program request that for a compact excavator. All new program requests are not part of the city manager's budget as funding. So it's up to the council as to whether or not you would like to add those things back. And we'll calculate what that impact may be to the budget. The capital plans, they requested $7.9 million worth of various projects for paving, vehicle equipment replacement, infrastructure improvements. Breakdown for what's being recommended is using partial the annual budget, $3.5 million worth of bonds and $2.8 million worth of reserve money. The priorities for those areas for the upcoming year is for Public Works to build a new equipment storage area, to develop an accident review committee, expand the equipment and process training programs, develop an urban forest management plan, leadership skills development, as well as an EAB response plan. For fleet, staff training and development, update their inventory tracking programs, explore and improve to enhance service and safety of employees. For engineering, it's trying to explore new grant opportunities, improve our facilities for alternative modes of transportation, hybrids, electric vehicles, or other things that may come forward. Maintain compliance with our state and federal requirements, improve the information provided to the public for ongoing projects or when projects that may impact or interfere with the public, improve project development efficiency, as well as staff training and development.
Questions? Council Fournier.
First, I want to compliment, having 0 OSHA injuries. That's very, very good. Thank you. 2 questions. One was on the revenue. The solid waste disposal was up 100,000. Why is that going up so much? Any idea?
That would be the rebilling, I believe, to the third parties, to the private haulers.
Yeah, but there's.
He's coming. He's coming.
There is no additional increase beyond the standard, I want to say it was 3% tipping fee increase. So, 100,000, I don't have that right in front of me, but
Is this
What
the
does that
licensing of the haulers? Or some of the rebilling of the third party haulers, Aaron? The commercial haulers.
none of that fits in.
While ago.
Yeah, yeah,
And you
I
can
don't-
get back to me. I mean,
Okay.
no,
I'll get you an answer. The only thing should have been is just that annual CPI.
and the last question I had was on the plow trucks. If you were, the source of funding was bonding, what's the useful life of a plow truck? And what's the bonding for?
Unfortunately, with some things, the useful life of the equipment would outweigh the bonding.
Yeah,
Because plow truck,
Uh,
maybe,
we generally 10 to
10
12
to
years
12
we're
years.
replacing it. because
And the
of
bond?
salt exposure.
So what we do is we tie the bonds maturities to the life of the underlying asset.
that's the
So it's
intent.
not unusual for us to have a bond
I
issue
just
that is
wanted to make
20 year.
sure.
Yep.
I didn't know if it was a 20-year bond and a 10.
A portion of it can be 10 years, so we do
Yeah,
match those up.
okay, great,
Yep.
thank you.
Other questions? Councilor Beck.
I had questions about, looking at the new program capital quest part at the beginning
Mhm.
of these sections. So I see, like, for now, we're talking about the public works, fleet maintenance, engineering, infrastructure. And mostly about the funding source, a lot of it's coming out of the operation budget. And I guess I'm personally, what I like to see is some of this, I think, could be shifted over to our, other reserves as opposed to taking it out of our operation budget. We've got, where we at, almost 2.7 million in our improvement reserve, for example. So my thinking about this was, for example, just looking at fleet maintenance, we're asking $50,000 to replace heat and paint, the heat in the paint bay and the car repair bay. moving, shifting that 50,000 to the improvement reserve, or some of the infrastructure issues like Broadway corridor, pedestrian intersection, outer Hammond left turn lane, also going to the infrastructure reserve. Just a way to lessen the impact on the taxpayer. We did put quite a bit in the reserve last year. And it would be nice to see some of that money used that way to reduce that burden. I mean, it would still leave us, after we did all that, it would still leave us almost 2.3 million in the improvement reserve. Or for example, the other thing that was on here, the light duty pickup trucks for 153,750, taking that out of the pooled equipment reserve. Again, just to reduce the burden on the taxpayer.
And so I do consider all of those when I put together the proposed budget. So for example, our total expenditures for a municipal budget is, what's the total, 76 million dollars?
76.
So the fact that we are only utilizing $1.6 million of your 7.6 to invest in capital is a pretty low number. Typically, you'd have a higher level of investment in your ongoing recurring capital cost, for example. So that 1.6 million felt like the appropriate level of investment within the existing budget. And to your point about what we did show on that reserve accounts too, is this reserve, while you have not seen the audit yet, and we'll get that for you at the finance committee, the draft, is these balances are of our draft audit. So we do not expect to be adding any addition to our reserves this year, because you've heard the drumbeat for several years about we can't fill positions, that's why we have extra money, we can't fill positions. Guess what we did last year?
Yeah.
We filled a bunch of positions.
Sure.
So we are not generating that kind of a surplus. So we are not funding the reserves. So there is no more money coming into this. So the balance of the reserve actually provides 2 to 3 years of additional capital funding down the road for you, if that trend continues. And we are continuing to see very low vacancy rates. So I do believe that trend is likely to continue. And probably a couple of years down the road, you may be having to talk about how you want to fund reserves proactively if you don't have those kinds of surpluses being generated. So that was the balance that I tried to strike between which ones we'd fund out of operating and how much of your existing reserves to suggest you appropriate.
Sure. No, I'll follow up. I mean, I don't question why it was decided that way.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just sharing my opinion that I would like to see it, some more of this shifted away from the taxpayers. I mean, we spoiled away quite a bit of it last few years, and it'd be nice to share some of it back in a sense. So I'm just telling on why.
Counselor Trumbull?
Question was just on the mini excavator. Why, under a new program, why is it a new program, not a capital request to?
We don't currently have one.
Wouldn't it like kind of replace a bigger excavator?
No, they want another
It'd be
one.
another piece of.
It would be another piece of
Okay.
equipment.
Sorry.
And it's basically to work on small sidewalk spaces. And what we ask from every department, when they have all of their capital items, is we work with the department head to say, what's your highest priority? And this, sorry, Aaron, does not make the list of highest priorities.
It's a nice to have, not a need to have.
Other questions? On the posture toward the reserve overall, while would like a lower tax bill, I think it may be also helpful to keep in mind that it's a really uncertain time in terms of what sort of federal dollars we may or may not be receiving when the budget does or does not get passed. And so to the extent that we can keep money in the reserves and keep it generating interest income so that we have it for a rainy day if we need it, I think that that's prudent as well. So that's right. Okay, executive?
Actually, the downtown partnership is here, so we will go back and cover that for the downtown special assessment district.
Okay.
So the special assessment district is also in our downtown. It also, like the downtown TIF, has a boundary of properties that is covered. where they are assessed a special tax, which is outside of our normal property tax for properties within the downtown. The footprint is different than the downtown TIF. You would think that they would be the same, but they're not. So there's a special assessment for every property in the downtown. That collection of the money is used to help fund the Downtown Bangor Partnership and projects that are within the downtown, that again benefit that downtown area. With this, it's a separate resolve. It's a separate piece of the budget. So included in your packet in the agenda is sort of the outline of the next steps based on the conversation tonight, depending on whether there's changes that are needed. With this would go to a resolve for a first reading on the May 28th council meeting, as well as orders to implement the tax rate if it's approved or whatever level that is at, as well as adopting the financial plan that will get talked about tonight. And then on June 9th, we will do the second reading, which would approve the final downtown program, as well as an order to execute a contract with Bangor Center Management, the DBA Downtown Bangor Partnership, to provide the services to run that program and process and do that money with all the programs that they're talking about tonight. So that would be the normal step. Those will require public hearings at those council meetings. So the procedure will be all new item stuff for public meetings. So I'm going to turn it over to Betsy Lundy from the Downtown Bangor Partnership to walk through their budget requests and their programs. And we'll go from there with questions.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you. We're kind of sticking with the same format that we've used for many years at this point, where our biggest investments go into marketing, events and beautification projects for downtown. And then also a small amount goes into networking and advocacy issues to kind of build cohesion and subgroups within our downtown community and bring people together and collect feedback. We've been really spending a lot of time and energy in the marketing realm, and we've been very successful with that. We had a plan for a number of years to really focus our marketing dollars locally in order to build local capacity and local interest in our drive catchment area. And over the past couple of years, we've started to dip our toes into tourism, especially with the CVB no longer being in action. And so you'll start to see in our budget, kind of the biggest area of expansion is the marketing budget. We did some experiments with tourism investment in places that have direct flight pathways to Bangor and then also maritime Canada with great success. We had, great ROI. It's Bangor, New York City, and Boston are the three biggest visitors to our website. They're going to our events page. They're going to, the Why Visit Downtown page. They're going to the Dining Downtown, Arts and Culture page. So it's really, you kind of see that map of the people who are coming to our website. It really looks like they're planning a visit to downtown, into Bangor at large. And we have decided at the marketing committee has decided to pull back from marketing in maritime Canada right now, given the current climate there. And so we're kind of refocusing our energy. We also just know that generally people are going to be staying a little bit closer. So we're also investing more into central Maine and southern Maine as target markets. In the Maine Office of Tourism report over the last year, they said that the only county to county growth in tourism visiting county to county was coming from Cumberland County to Penobscot County. So go us. And we are going to lean into that. And we partnered with Community and Economic Development on a couple of campaigns. We did a Celebrate the Holidays in Bangor, Maine campaign because our funding really can only go towards advertising downtown. And so we pulled in a little bit of funding from Community and Economic Development to round it out and have a holistic Celebrate the Holidays in Bangor campaign and involve more things. And we did print ads in places like Portland Magazine. And then we created web landing pages that would bring people to see all the things that were happening during the holidays. And then they could click out and, go see, Penobscot Theater or the Cross Insurance Center or the Gracie and just see the local things that were happening. And we did another one for summer built around, and it's been successful also in helping get publications to dedicate content to us. So as an example, there is Portland Magazine, because we've been working with them in cultivating this relationship. They did an article about Avril Lavigne coming to waterfront concerts, and then we partnered that with on the facing page an advertising campaign about summer in Bangor, including those things that don't have a lot of money to advertise. So it's your 4th of July festival, and what else was on there, Monique? I'm gonna rely on Monique.
Fourth of July, Historical Society walks.
Yeah.
I'll go through the list. Waterfront concerts, the marginally famous Duck of Justice.
Yes.
Trying to think other pieces. Panstorm, the library's summer concert series.
Yes.
Um,
So there's a lot of things in
bu-
that.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is that the campaign, the print campaigns have like QR codes and a website, and we build a dedicated webpage for the event, so we can continue to add things when somebody like contacts us and they're like, hey, why wasn't my thing included? We're like, well, here you go, let's put it on there. So, so it's been like it was successful, and it's something that we want to continue to build on this year. And we're running pay-per-click campaigns, digital ads, and OTT and streaming in our target markets, which are New York City, Boston, a little bit Philadelphia. We get a lot of traction from Chicago as well. And then in the winter time running, or pre-winter, running in our direct flight pathways to Florida to draw the Florida visitor who wants the snowy Maine experience up here. So that's kind of the biggest increase in our budget this year is in that marketing realm, to really try to draw in the tourists and kind of fill that gap where there isn't a lot of tourism campaign happening right now. And we're also working with the Recreation Economies for Rural Communities on that to partner with a regional campaign. We have a really exciting branding campaign that's coming to fruition and that we'll be able to launch soon. And then all the partner communities will be able to draw on you know, the branding and the data that was created in order to create the branding. We also partnered with them on what is the name of it? Oh, it's escaping me now, but it's a data tracking software that the city really wanted, and it was going to be really expensive to buy. But instead, the RERC as a regional partner was able to have all of the communities in Downtown Bangor Partnership as well pitch in. So now we'll get data about who's coming to Bangor, where they're coming from, what they're looking for, and then use that information to grow it, because Bangor is a really wonderful place to visit, and it hasn't always been featured in that way. And we wrote a grant. I included a link to it in your document to do some work under the overpass by CDOG. It's the connection between the waterfront and historic downtown Bangor. If you go down and see the people coming off the cruise ship and trying to find their way downtown, they get a little nervous when they get to that spot because it doesn't look like a great place to pass through. So we partnered with the city of Bangor and Wabanaki Public Health and Wellness to create a plan that would do some lighting underneath the bridge, as well as these water filters. It has to be an environmental component. So all the dirty water from the bridge comes down in these downspouts and then it just dumps into the river. So it'd be building some really beautiful decorative planters that also function as water filters under these downspouts. And then there are gigantic topiary animals that are native species that are important to our Wabanaki community. And there'll be signage and QR codes so you can like scan it and hear the name of the animal. So it'd be like, you know, a 10-foot tall moose, and you can hear the word for moose spoken in the native language as well. And we can over time build that out to tell, you know, kind of some of the important stories and myths associated with it. And we really hope that that will transform that area and move back and forth. We haven't heard back about whether or not we've got it, but even if we didn't get this one, there's a really great Connecting Communities one through Maine DOT that's even better in the fall that we'll pursue now that we've done all the groundwork to create the relationships and the partnership and define the project. Lots of fun, exciting things.
So I will add, the proposed budget is recommending a 7% increase in the downtown tax rate. It's currently 65 cents per thousand. That's 63 of tax and a 2 cent overlay. The increase that's being proposed would take it up to 72, which would be 70 plus the 2 cent increase. We did increase it last year to cover the downtown, portion of the downtown ambassadors. And then the balance of that contract was covered under the downtown TIF. This increase, again, would cover some of the increase in the marketing, some of the payroll, as well as the downtown ambassadors, but they're still requesting the balance of that contract, the same amount as last year, 230, to come out of the downtown TIF for that program.
I should mention too, that included in this budget, and the board, I presented them with two options for budgets. One was a 5 cent increase and one was a 7 cent increase. And the 7 cent increase would make me a full-time employee. And they unanimously voted for that one. So that is included in that as well. And the difference between the 5 cent and the 7 cent is bringing up staffing to handle some of these projects.
Questions? Councilor Mallett?
You get, how should I say, cooperative, funding from the airport as far as you're dealing with New York and Boston?
I wouldn't say so much that we get funding from the airport, but they are a great partner in helping us share our message. And there's a couple different ways that plays out. One is that, our materials are featured and distributed there. They always tell us that they run out of our print materials, the booklet that we do and the map that we do, faster than anything else. We've been out of the booklets for 2 months now. We have the new ones coming out, but they're printed annually, it gives us an opportunity to update. So they distribute those materials. If you've been to the airport in the last couple of years, you'll see when you're coming down the escalator, they gave us a nice spot to, we paid for the billboard, but they gave us the space to put the thing that shows the historic downtown is just 2 miles away, which is actually really cool because most of the time when you visit a city, the airport is nowhere near anything that you want to see. And we wanted people to know that they could pop out and visit restaurants and see a little bit of history and enjoy the culture. They also are hosting the RERC grant for the digital kiosks. They're hosting one of our RERC kiosks there in the baggage claim area. And that's another really great advertising opportunity for the community because it allows us to kind of put passively, serve up passive advertising. So, it will have that 4th of July programming on there. It will have, visit the city forest, all those kinds of things like scrolling on there. And then it will also be interactive. So if a person wants to go over to it and click on it and be like, where are the restaurants? It will pull up, it's geolocated, by location, where all the closest restaurants are, where all the closest shops are. That sort of thing. So they're good partners in that. They don't give us money, but they give us space and opportunity, which normally they sell those spaces for lots of money, so.
Councilor Forner, did you have a question?
Yeah. For the city's, your biggest revenue source, I'd just like to have a little bit more financial information. What your actuals were for 24, a balance sheet and year-to-date numbers.
Yep, could definitely provide those at the
Great.
next meeting.
Thanks.
Other questions?
I guess for Dave, not so much for, Betsy, but, last year I can't remember where we got the gap funding for the street plus, but I know this year we're using it out of the TIF.
Right.
If we didn't allocate the 230 in the TIF for the ambassador program, what would we be using the money for?
Oh, there's other downtown projects that we could allocate that money to. But
I
yeah,
mean, it
I
must
think-
have displaced them. We didn't have it in there last year, so
Yeah,
it
no, it
must
was,
have displaced something to put the two.
no, the 230
in.
was in the TIF last year as well.
Oh, I thought we had to
That's-
change the TIF law to get
came
that.
out-
Oh, no, I'm sorry, it came out of the corporate.
Right.
money.
So we must have
Correct.
displaced something this year to put it in. What do you know? Why didn't we displace?
Not specifically, because we knew that because the plan last year was, correct, we weren't sure if the downtown TIF could pay for it last year.
Right.
We went through the process, we've determined that the downtown TIF could pay for it. So it got roped, it got added to the different uses for the downtown TIF. Yes, could there be other projects that may have been displaced? I'm not sure what those were. And may be able to answer that question, or Debbie?
So typically what it was is it would have been, so last year, we probably put a little bit more into the funding of the potential local share for the village partnership initiative. For those
Okay, so different
projects that
categories.
we are
Okay.
funding over multiple years.
Yeah.
Likely came down
Yeah.
some. The big one for us is the Penobscot River, for example. Is we had anticipated we were gonna have to bond that. It's taken us 15 years, but we have finally paid off all of those
Coal tar
past
remediation.
costs and everything.
Mhm.
So that's coming down substantially. And last year, it's likely that we funded the sidewalk work. And as Dave indicated, we hadn't fully expended that, so we didn't add any additional
All
money.
right, thanks.
Counselor Beck?
I just want to get clarification, because the information I was given that the 230 came out of unassigned fund balance last year.
Yeah, that's where I was thinking it came from.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
So we're, that's
Okay, I think we're good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I should have also said, I thought the summary report, the annual report that you provided was really, really helpful. It was good reading this afternoon.
Thank you.
With my cup of coffee at 3 o'clock, it's good reading.
And I'm always happy when I write a report and your eyes don't waver.
No, it was great. Thank you. Moving on to executive?
Yes. So the executive area that covers the city manager's office, risk and safety, as well as human resources. Looking at the revenues, there is a decrease in the revenues. That's related to the ARPA funding. We moved the
Homeless response
Homeless-
manager.
Yes, I wasn't sure of the exact title, over to Health and Community Services, because that seemed like the more logical place for that position to reside. That position is currently being funded with ARPA funds, so that revenue of the transfer into the division from the ARPA money is gonna be taken out of here and moved over to Health and Community Services. The operating expenses, there is an increase in the operating expenses, roughly about $60,000. Those are mostly related to payroll, insurance, and contractual service costs. No new programs are being requested by those areas. They don't have a capital plan for those areas. Priorities, obviously welcoming a new city manager, relocating back to City Hall over the next few months. Continuing to update the personnel rules and regulations. Those are severely outdated. They've been working on them in pieces, but we really need to find the time to get that done. Roll out a new internet system for employees and a way to get information out to employees. Build out the website and the capability and the options to the website for the public. Review and evolve the communication strategy that the city has with, again, educating the public, reaching out to the public for activities and what's going on. Collective bargaining negotiations, that happens every year. We'll have more come due next year. Ongoing evaluations and reporting for the ARPA awards. Some of that will shift over to the finance department upon the change in city manager, as well as hire and onboard new safety environmental managers.
Thank you. Questions? Counselor Fournier?
With the new city manager coming on board, at some point here, the salary. Was that
We've adjusted everything.
adjusted?
Yes, we presumed what the change may be that's
Right.
built into the city manager's budget.
Because I knew Don had given us a range
Yeah.
at that point. Great, thank you.
Counselor Fish?
The internet system, it is part of the consideration for that, automated, billing on the website, ease some of the workload or ease the flow. And,
The internet system itself would be more of an employee area to put out different notices through HR or notices like that, but the build out of the website itself, part of that is, and that's in the capital plan, is to try to add on a permitting and licensing feature that's available through the website that would allow citizens to apply for permits online, and do various things like that and try to streamline that process as opposed to coming in face to face, standing in line. So that is the plan. It's a different priority item, but it is a priority item to try to do that.
Thank you.
Other questions on this area? I know that intranet has been on the plan for a few years.
It's been a while.
Really glad to see that it's on the list of priorities. Do we have a vendor for that yet?
The intranet, and I believe
Intranet.
we've got a beta going right now. And Courtney is going to join us, and I will continue to talk until she makes it to
That's
her
right.
chair.
Courtney O'Donnell, Assistant City Manager. So the internet is built into our existing website. It's
Okay.
really just like on the back end, where employees will be able to log in and access web pages that you can't see publicly.
So it's not an HRIS, it's something different.
Correct.
Okay.
It's a way to make things readily and easily available to employees, but it's not interactive. Like, they're not gonna be able to see their payroll information or change that, which HRIS, for example, would do.
Yeah.
But it will help us create sort of like a one-stop shop for like forms and plan information and all that sorts of information. Instead of pulling from multiple sources, it would be in one.
One source of truth.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Thank you. So we're gonna move on to finance. The finance area covers financial services, city hall, central services, and information services. For revenue projections, for the department, those are relatively stable. We're not really a money-making area. For expenditures, there is slight increase in expenditures, roughly 45,000. So again, related to payroll, maintenance costs for computer software, hardware. And we were able to, based on our billings, we did a reduction in our anticipated utility costs for next year. The information services area does have two new programs that they've requested. Both of these are new positions that would be added if approved. One is a cybersecurity analyst and one's a cloud security analyst. The proposal for these is the cybersecurity analyst is the airport currently is under federal requirements to maintain a cybersecurity plan. That's been underway for a couple of years. IT was heavily involved and is still heavily involved in making sure that all of the operations at the airport comply with that program, assist with the reporting of that program. The expectation is nationally that those types of requirements will be shifted to other public areas, namely public transportation and the wastewater treatment plant, which are other concerns for potential issues or cyber issues. That is not mandated yet. The concern with this or the request for this position is to sort of get out in front of that, continue to help with the airport cybersecurity, make sure the city system are monitored, maintained, and comply with cybersecurity so that we're sort of on the front end of the curve as opposed to a catch-up curve when that happens. The cloud security analysts, along the same things in today's world, almost every program that we are looking at moving to or updating is now cloud-based. That requires also monitoring, making sure that every time anything that is cloud-based and not internal within our system opens up the door for potential hacking or someone else somebody able to get in to our systems. And that is, once you're in our system, the potential is there that you can impact any department within the city. So that position would make sure and be responsible for making sure those cloud programs are protected. We have the right firewalls in place. And this would be an expert in that type of a field, which may be beyond our normal IT staff. We've been sending them training, but they're not that's not their level of expertise or their area of expertise on a day-to-day basis for IT. So those are the two positions. Again, they would be two added positions, roughly 93,000 a year that would have to get added back if the council chose to add those back to the budget or include those in the budget. Capital plan, City Hall capital plan is requested for 225,000. That relates to the renovations and staff relocation. Looking at funding all of that from fund balance or from the reserves, so no impact to the taxpayer. The information services, looking at their proposal was 547,000 of various items. That includes computer replacements, citywide switch program that we've talked about at the finance committee before. We're on a plan to replace all of our switches citywide. It does include 225,000 for a financial land use and HR system. That's where I'm hoping to, our current financial system is outdated. It does need to replace. We've been putting money away for the last few years. This will give us, with this 255, if approved, would give us around 750,000. And I think that will be enough for us to put out a bid. The plan is to put out a bid next year and see if we can get a new financial system that would also incorporate the needs of HR for an HRIS system where both systems will talk to each other, because that was one of the concerns we had when the HRS RFP came in. One, the price was a little high, but the concern was that if we locked into an HRIS system, it may not be compatible with the new financial system. We'd like to get all one unit. So that's our goal with that funding. The central services did request a new slitter, cutter, and creaser that would improve some efficiency down there, as well as reduce some of we do have to outsource some of our printing use because we don't have the equipment to do that. It is not being recommended for funding. That was, again, sort of be really nice to have, but not a critical piece. It was a way that we could cut a little bit more out of the budget and keep those saves. For our priorities for finance, again, the implementation of the financial statements, as we've talked about at the finance committee, staff development and training, City Hall, we continue to monitor the renovation progress and prepare for the return of all the employees and functions back to City Hall. Information services, staff training, identify and replace our aging infrastructure, continue our fiber redundant connections. The plan is eventually to have all departments of the city be on a redundant plan. So if something happens to the main servers that are at City Hall, it'll automatically kick over to the backup servers and departments will see very little downtime. That still is in process. It's been in process for a couple of years, but we're hoping to hopefully wrap that up. Expand the connectivity between the airport, the control tower, and the National Guard. There's some connectivity issues there where they don't necessarily talk to each other, so they're looking at what can be done to help that. And again, minimize disruption of service when systems go down. Central services, educate departments about their ability and what they can print and what they're able to print there to reduce going outside to printers when possible. Explore some job submission software to increase the efficiency of the department and continue to streamline the workflows.
Questions? Councilor Leonard.
I have concerns. So I'm not even going to touch the financial services. If someone else has questions there, I'll be fine. I'm not even going to touch on the line items here. I'm actually pretty focused on what you listed for accomplishments, challenges, and priorities. So I want to take a quick look at this really quick. So under City Hall, you've listed maintained high quality, full level of public services while at temporary location as an accomplishment. You've also listed ongoing oversight of the City Hall renovations. If we look through challenges and priorities, for both of those, and I'm happy to read all four bullet points right there. They say the same thing. What's the point of even having an entire section here if it's saying the same exact thing? I don't know what's an accomplishment. I don't know what's a challenge. I don't know what's a priority here. One thing that was a challenge that wasn't listed here was the $413,000 that was unfortunately had to be allocated because of the wiring that needed to be done afterwards. But let's move on from City Hall, and I want to go to information services. I do want to give you credit for one thing here, which was under continued the cybersecurity initiative at the airport to ensure compliance. So the TSA does require compliance at the airport, and it really does look like IT really did a good job here on this intertwined process. And the IT staff were significant in getting this job. So I want to give you credit where credit's due. That said, after going through all this, I'm of the opinion now IT needs its own department. I don't see really any vision whatsoever in information services underneath finance department. For example, if we look at implementation of Microsoft Office 365 apps citywide, I'm not saying installing Windows 11 is on every single computer is not a hard. It does take time. It does take staff labor, but I'm not sure I would categorize that as an accomplishment. I would categorize that as that's something that needs to be done, and I'm not knocking the staff for that. The staff is just doing what they need to do. Again, the vision here is lacking. And if we go to the next one, implementation of a common use solution for air carriers at the airport. This is something that's been done for decades at many other airports, where an airport already has its own common use solution for all airlines to be there. This is something that we've been behind for many, many years on, and the other airlines have had to provide their own computers in order to do their jobs that make it much harder for airlines to come here. Just by having the system, finally, we now might actually get more airlines and more connections to the city of Bangor. So this is a very much needed thing. But again, this is something that just needs to be done and hasn't been done in years. And I would argue that this has actually cost the city potentially millions of dollars in revenue by just putting off what appears to be a simple common use system. That again, I'm not saying doesn't take a lot of time, but it needs to be done. And an accomplishment of installing new camera servers at the Cross Insurance Center, the airport, and City Hall. I'm not saying that doesn't need to be done, but in the day and age of artificial intelligence, where we can have an IT department that uses artificial intelligence to create our own municipal software, potentially saving us millions of dollars a year of trying to rent out other software that staff then has to use, that we have to license, and then we have to train staff on that licensed software. And then depending on the changes of that software and whether it's compliant or not, we might have to go up to bid for another software. I get that some software you don't have a choice in. Like the FAA requires us to use certain types of software, but there's no reason for us to not have a visionary IT department, especially in the day and age where IT and data technologies are wildly booming to the point where we can't have innovation here. But unfortunately, innovation has not been here for a really, really long time. And I know your staff are competent. I know that they are able to do these jobs, but I read this, I read what's here, and I see misallocation of resources. I see misallocation of labor. I see misallocation of really just strategic planning. And the only thing that I will really touch on financial services is, and I'm assuming when you mean under challenges for financial services, the ability to meet regular deadlines due to staffing turnover and new staff learning curve, is that the bullet for we did not complete the audit on time?
That's the primary one, yeah.
Okay, so why don't we actually list that out as a challenge so that we all know what we're talking about here? That is really just misrepresentation, what the problem is. I mean, how am I supposed to even talk about the RFP processing issues that we have? I mean, I don't want to bring up certain examples, but there have been some staff that have been telling me that when Counselor Beck made a very good and relevant decision to put forward a new RFP to go out to bid for our auditing services, that I remember you saying that we have to honor the RFP process. Meanwhile, I know for a fact that in another department, there was an RFP process that those staff members wanted to go forward with a particular bidder that you said that you did not like, and you had them go back out to bid.
Councilor Leonard.
No, I'm sorry, this is very, very relevant, Council Chair.
I think.
I need to really understand what is going on in the finance department? What is going on here? I have so many questions. I haven't even gotten started with the questions here. And you know what? It's sort of a rhetorical question at this point because I really don't expect an answer, especially after being lied to for the better part of 8 months regarding the audit process. So I'm sorry, but I have massive, massive concerns with this department, and I think it needs a massive, massive overhaul. And I'll end on that.
Councilor Fournier.
Oh, thank you. I just can't remember. When did we renegotiate the interest?
Last year,
This past year?
it was last fiscal year, I believe.
Or was it the last? I
Yeah,
was gonna
because it's
say,
been
'cause
for
that
this-
Should have been.
Because it's been in this current fiscal year that we've been reaping that benefit,
Yeah,
yes.
okay, so
Yeah.
I was just gonna say that should have certainly been an accomplishment, and it was, I don't know if it was recognized
Yeah.
even last year. So where does interest income show up?
So it actually shows up in the non-department specific revenue.
Okay,
So because it basically gets dedicated to lower the overall tax burden. It's
Yeah.
not generated by the fact that we have a finance department.
well, I know, I was just trying to
Yeah.
give some credit to the finance.
And it does get allocated out. Some of it funds various accounts and reserves.
Right, okay, thank you.
Councilor Beck.
I just had some questions about a couple more of the program and capital requests. For the city switch extreme or the citywide extreme switch upgrade, how many switches is that for? I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I will get back to you.
Sure.
I wanna say 25 if I remember, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I will verify that and get back to you.
Sure, no, and I just want to share where I was going with that, because in the finance committee, last month, we had approved a purchase for 25. But that was for the airport and crossing insurance.
Correct.
center.
Right.
So I guess I'm looking at this going, we're leasing these ones for the, 5 years at, 52,000 pop. And then we got that heck of a deal on the other one, the 92,000. So I don't know if it's like a lease
If
we're
it's
caught into,
comparable.
or if we can tap them on the shoulder and be like, hey, that was a good deal. Can we swap around here? So that was that one. The other one was, I did, the software part I'm hung up on, just because I guess me having a tech background, I'm getting just general answers about what it's for. I get that we have the separate RFP process that happens later, but I guess I'm trying to find out how we got that $750,000 number for the software. Like it's, someone somewhere had to go out and get some sample quotes, get an idea and say, yeah, this is the ballpark. And then these are the software vendors we're looking at. Cause I'm having a hard time popping another $455,000 towards it from the unassigned fund balance. Cause you take that money, you take the 750,000 almost covers the school increase, to the taxpayer, where, we're not gonna even be RFPing for another year, I guess I just wanna know so much more about where that came from. So that's really just an information request, and we'll revisit this one. And then the last one is also because I have a background in working in a print shop.
Yeah.
The slitter cutter greaser, I'm thinking return on investment thing of, if we're outsourcing it, and 26 grand, is how long does it last? What are we spending a year? Because if if the thing breaks even within 3 years, I'd say go for it. Especially, if we got, a superstar down there.
Yeah,
Who's
which we did.
running the shop, yep, and that's one thing we can do to make life a little easier. I'd be in favor of something like that. So I just wanna know more about return on
Okay.
investment, so we can revisit later.
Okay.
But those were the three for finance that I was looking at.
Other questions about finance? I'll just add, I think it's perfectly okay to ask questions. I don't think accusing staff in public is the right way to go of lying or misappropriating funds.
Even if it's a fact?
I'm speaking now. It's my turn. We have all agreed to council guidelines about how we will behave. I think it's important that we hold each other to it. And if there are serious concerns about staff behavior, those are entitled to confidentiality and under Maine state law. So airing those out in public is not the right approach. It's not the fair approach. It's not what anyone would want of any of us. And I would encourage us, though we may have very different ideas about the way the city should go related to the budget, that we try to keep this professional and positive for the best of Bangor and for the best of our city staff. Is there anything else on the agenda for tonight?
We got through things quickly.
We did.
Yeah.
All right,
We're adjourned.
okay, that'll make next week a little easier.
I just had that answer for.
Oh,
While you're here.
yep,
come
we
on
haven't
up.
shut off, so Dave can
adjourned.
take that off his to-do list.
3% CPI, we've seen an increase in commercial waste volume, so that's been bumped up 1,000 ton. Our residential volume is holding steady. So that.
So what's causing the big increase in commercial?
I don't know. That's what we're seeing go across the scale.
Didn't know if it was coming from a specific area or.
Don't have it.
All right.
All we know is by hauler.
No, I know. I just.
Yeah.
Didn't know if there was something, a trend.
I don't know, hopefully trash means good things. I don't know. That's what I'm hoping.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.